And to quote one of my all-time favorite heavy metal bands of all time, "Death is riding into town with armor. He come to grant you your rights."
Yes.
Yeah, that was obviously bad karaoke, but I wasn't actually putting in an effort. But, I thought it was like an apt description of what's going on right now, seeing as how, Trump's executive actions and all that. But anyway, what's up, everybody? It is Zach, the Dark Conservatarian, and I'm here with my usual co-host, LiveMouth Reviews.
Hello.
Yes, and as I just said, we're going to be giving Donald Trump just a little bit of credit today, a little bit more credit than last one at least, but it's going to be rather measured. So I'm not going to be filling up the leftist tears tumbler that high up, but all the same, I got some credit to give to him. But as you all know, unless you are like living under a rock or you're a ghost subscriber or you're just new to the channel, you know that we are highly critical of it. But this one might be a little bit different, at least starting off anyways. Let's see. Yeah, there's a link that I wanted to show. And so this was one of the things that happened.
This morning, the Trump administration's plan to carry out mass layoffs within the federal government is underway. ABC News reports thousands of employees were fired yesterday across numerous agencies.
I don't know how much I'll get struck for copyright if I just let most of this play on pause, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
The Department of Education, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Small Business Administration were all reportedly impacted. In audio obtained by ABC News, the acting director of the Office of Personnel Management is heard telling about 200 probationary employees to gather their personal belongings.
You will receive.
All right, so I don't know if there's much more necessary to show right there, but yeah, Trump has been just opening up his administration with probably the most executive orders that any president has done in within their first 100 days, let alone their first 20 days in office. Like, he's set new records, but that obviously doesn't mean that all of his executive actions are completely invalid. There's some executive actions that he has just rearranged, the offices of where people work at or whatever, or if there's executive orders that he's doing to undo past executive orders or whatnot. But we're going to be taking that piece by piece here. Very quickly, what's your opinion about all of it, Loudmouth? Executive orders, whatnot.
Which specifically, you have to be a lot more specific to get my opinion on it.
Well, I guess one prime example of something I do support is him reining in the EPA. That was created by executive order from what is at least one of the two worst Republican presidents that we ever had, that being Richard Milhouse Nixon. And now Trump is undoing some of that with executive action. I don't know about the legitimacy of his other executive actions when it comes to freezing USAID and other stuff like that. I mean, those seem to be the big ones, him reining in the EPA and USAID, or at least ones that I can think off at the top of my head anyways.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you didn't? I guess you don't have much to say about USAID or any other executive actions?
I mean, everyone's for removing waste and fraud in government. But the thing about Trump is I don't really trust him because knowing his narcissism, I think that he is probably using this as kind of an excuse to rid the government of employees that aren't sufficiently loyal to him.
Possibly. That's always
it reminds me actually a lot of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign in China, which basically, well, I'm sure a lot of the people that he persecuted under that were corrupt as hell. It was more a way of him cementing his power by basically purging the Communist Party of anyone who wasn't sufficiently loyal to him. And this kind of smacks of something very similar.
Yeah, and I guess people can theorize on what they think that Trump's intentions are about him specifically reining in the EPA, whether it's totally for selfish reasons. Oh, the EPA, none of them are loyal to me, or if he's doing it for legitimate, libertarian-esque kind of reasons. I mean, either way, whatever his intention is, I think that it's a good outcome because I've always disliked the EPA. EPA has always been intrusive, like from designating people's backyard ponds as national waters or advising California to preserve a delta smelt, and so therefore they redirect some of their water from the farmlands back into the ocean or whatever the heck that was. That was like 10 plus years ago or something, but I still remember.
Right. I mean, the EPA certainly has abused their authority in order to bully property owners. That is undeniable, and I'm all for reining that in. But I just don't know if that's what Trump is doing here.
Yeah, I gotcha. And for the record, people, like, as a libertarian, I am against this kind of government organization, environmental protection agencies in general. But in my honest opinion, if the people were to do that on the state level, that at least be more legitimate than this federal bureaucracy anyways. Do I like that this is the world that we are living in, though, of where that we're just reliant entirely on presidents conducting executive orders? Because I think that would have been the only way that the EPA would have been like longer lasting, and Trump would not have been able to undo things as far as EPA goes with executive order, is if Richard Nixon actually got Congress to pass forth a bill that set up the EPA. Instead, no, he did it via executive order. But unfortunately, to quote the great late Barack Obama, I have a pen and I have a phone, and this is the world we live in. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate that power is so centralized, but as long as past presidents are going to try to take this centralized action of executive orders, I think that Trump is legitimate in at least undoing those past executive orders via, executive orders to undo them.
True. Anything Biden implemented via executive order, Trump can rescind via executive order just as easily.
Yeah.
That's how it works. That's generally why it's much better for a president's legacy to get laws passed through Congress than governed by executive order to executive order.
Yep. One particular executive order actually is in regards of freezing USAID funds. Now, I will say, from what I have read, USAID was founded under JFK. I don't know specifically if he founded it via executive order or if he did get a bill through Congress and he just signed the final signature to, approve of such a founding of an organization. But either way, Trump has frozen those funds because of all the waste and so forth. And regardless if the methodology is wrong, I think that the outcome is right. Would I prefer if Trump did a different methodology, got House representatives off their asses to give him a spending bill that decreases funding in USAID? Sure. But as is, I think this is overall a good thing. Now,
well, my view on it, it is USAID isn't just like the U.S. government being charitable. Oftentimes, spreading aid around the world is to further U.S. national interests. That's, again, something a lot of these so-called America Firsters do not understand. Not that there isn't waste and fraud and abuse in the system, and I'm all for reining that in, but oftentimes a lot of these initiatives do have a purpose in aiding U.S. national interests.
I gotcha. And I understand that there is some legitimate usages of USAID, some legitimate things that they have done, like feeding, starving, and so forth. But in your opinion, Loudmouth, do you think that it is a good idea for him to freeze all spending and take a second look at it and then maybe put back forth the funding of feeding the hungry and so forth?
Probably. It's something that kind of needs to be examined on a case-by-case basis. Like a lot of these reports of really ridiculous shit U.S. money going towards, they are ridiculous things that do slip through the cracks and people, and I'm all for cutting that shit out, but ultimately it makes a tiny fraction of the federal budget. Because first
things
of all,
like Al-Qaeda terrorist member getting college tuition and Iraqi Sesame Street.
Right. Yeah, but $20 million as a portion of the federal budget is pennies.
Ultimately,
like
yeah.
anyone arguing, even if we did slash any and all foreign aid, it wouldn't even come within 100 leagues close to needing to balance the budget.
Probably, yeah, and I guess that is one funny thing. Like somebody tweeted something talking about, USAID has saved American taxpayers 60 million or 60 billion. I can't remember what the exact number was. $60 billion, and they're all the happy for it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I mean, yeah, that's progress, but are they really happy? Because that still does not really put a dent in our deficit to even get us beginning to like pay down the overall
Here's
debt.
the reality that most of the country refuses to accept, and it may well be the end of the nation until most of the population can grow the fuck up and accept reality. Unless you address entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, unless you either create greater forms like raising the age necessary or increasing copays or something to make these programs more solvent, America will eventually go into default. But no one ever wants to do that because in the short term, no one wants to lose these benefits that they're all been looking forward to. Thus, it never gets fixed. The can's always kicked to the next generation. And as a result, the problem continues to get worse and worse until eventually it's going to burst.
Yeah, and that might be something to research more into later as to what the exact problems is and what exactly needs to be reformed. I mean, I have always went on about the work mandate, but I guess Trump had already put back in the work mandate for food stamps in his first term, so that's pretty much out of the way. But yeah, you're exactly right.
That's basic common sense, 100%. If you're not at least looking for a job, you should have no right to food stamps. Particularly, what really pissed me off, a lot of these guys who are getting food stamps are obese. Very clearly, you don't need more food, buddy.
Yeah, much less do you need to like devote them food stamps funds to Hostess fatty cakes.
Yeah,
for God's sake, eat yourself some more carrots and celery.
Yeah, they should maybe like restrain food stamps to only be on carrots and celery and stuff, because a lot of them are just using buy crappy fat, and essentially it's just making them even less healthy and less able. So it's not really helping anyone. It's just wasting the taxpayers a bunch of money, and no one really benefits. Not even the people getting it.
Actually, that you did just remind me of that idea that you just mentioned there, Loudmouth. Something that I thought for a few years now is the idea of making it so that food stamps, you can only use it on some certain specific foods, like maybe like canned tuna, basic chicken, maybe ground beef, and freaking beans, other canned goods, and basic fruits and vegetables, but not be allowed to purchase it on, say, steak or the most highest quality of or expensive of meats, like lobster or Hostess cakes or anything sweet like that, you know?
Yeah, like I remember about a decade ago watching this guy who was over 700 pounds bragging about the fact that taxpayers were keeping his fat ass alive. I'm like, I'd rather not keep that guy's fat ass alive. I'd rather the taxpayers stop funding him so he doesn't have access to the food that was clearly killing. He's probably dead by now. I'm guessing, but yeah.
Or at least the taxpayers should not be paying to keep him fat, as was what in all practicality was happening in the near future of that moment.
Yeah, I remember there was a video on it Mr. Medicare made called "Living in a Van Down by the River," where basically the guy got kicked out of his house and essentially he was just living in a van down by the river, a van he could barely fit in.
Yeah.
I mean, how the hell does someone get that motherfucking fat?
I don't know. I don't know. Like fuck.
And this really pissed me off. They got this guy in a weight loss program, funded by Medicaid. So essentially that we were all paying for. And this fat ass was hospitalized for his weight for 3 months. He lost 20 pounds. I've lost more than that without being hospitalized for my weight in 3 months.
And not to mention you had less weight to lose, and yet you still lost more than he did, more pounds than he did.
Yeah, exactly. He got kicked out eventually because they caught him sneaking in a pizza.
Wow.
And I'm guessing
This is pathetic.
Yeah, and I'm guessing though that there's no way that was the only time he was cheating on his diet, because a guy who is that motherfucking fat, the human body requires a lot of calories to maintain a body mass that high. So if you're eating a healthy diet under 2,000 calories a day and doing mild exercise, losing a pound a day is easy.
Yeah.
But
no, he could not even
ass off.
he could not even stand the massive air quotes pain of having even the littlest bit of hunger. Like his hunger had to be like fully 100%, 110% even satisfied, not just 80% satisfied or something.
Yeah, and he was a disgusting person too. They also kicked him out because he was harassing the nurses.
No, of course.
Yeah. So with guys like that, I'm just kind of like, fuck this loser. He should not be getting any kind of funding from me. And yet that's the real problem. The real problem is a lot of domestic leeches are screwing over the system rather than foreign aid.
Yeah, I agree. Like we spend more on our own welfare than foreign aid. And you goes talking about that story of that
dozens of times more.
Yeah, and you go talking about the story of that fat guy. Like, speaking of which, there's a Facebook reel that I saw not too long ago. It was these two, like, about the same weight, 600, 700-pound women. They were being interviewed by this nurse or whatever she was, asking, do you drink any water? And they were like, no. What do you drink instead? Sodies. Soda pop. And she was going on about how, like, when she was younger, both her and her sister, her fat ass sister, were going on about, our mother taught us that if we eat a candy bar and then we eat a diet soda, it will offset the sugar from the candy bar. And the nurse was all like,
was a fucking idiot.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you should just, the dumbfounded look on that nurse. She was all like, do you agree with that now? And she was all like, I did when I was a kid. So possibly she does not believe it, but damn, she's so fucking addicted to diet, quote unquote, soda, to where that she can't get off of it. Damn it.
Oh man, that shit's depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really depressing is the fact that those chicks probably were rejecting dudes on Tinder, demanding their boyfriend have a six-pack and makes at least $100,000 a year.
Yeah, I don't know if the real was from an interview of a TV show that was happening more current day, or if it was like early 2000s or something. But either way, yeah.
Yeah, then they're certainly dead by now.
Yep.
No one that heavy ever makes it past 35. Like, it's almost impossible.
So, both me and Loudmouth can agree, and I'm sure that any libertarian audience member of mine who listens to this in the future can agree that Trump should focus more on domestic welfare than foreign aid that we give to other countries. One thing that I did want to say, though, was that there was this one claim talking about of how that, there's like $50 million that were sent to Gaza for condoms. And I actually gone researching that, and I mean, granted, it was like pretty much a copy paste like title with every single website that I that popped up in my search results. But it was all like, no, there's no evidence that $50 million went to Gaza for paying for condoms. There was the $15 million for condoms for Taliban in Afghanistan that was not as much challenged. But still, I am kind of on the skeptical side of that. They're paying for condoms. I believe the whole Sesame Street thing and the this Al-Qaeda guy who got funded like college tuition. That's
you see,
let's
put it back to the link you just had. Do you see that?
What, this?
Right there, yeah. You hear that Elon knocked up some right-wing influencer, Ashley Sinclair?
Oh no, I did not.
It's funny because this bitch was disparaging both Manosphere guys for kind of their, saying all these stereotypes about women and disparaging single mothers. Yet she just let a rich dude knock her up out of wedlock.
Wow.
So she's living proof of all the stereotypes about women that the Manosphere were spreading are completely true.
Well, Well, yeah, obviously, women will like flock to the richest guys. Doesn't mean that they absolutely should be that way, though.
I mean, the guy's got 13 kids to like 4 different women. The guy's pretty much just spreading his seed all he can. But I guess you got $100 billion to spare. I mean, that is what guys tend to do.
Yeah. And on further note, like the whole USAID thing, so there's like some true and some not true about it. I mean, sadly enough, I even hear like Ranting Monkey like repeating the talking point of $50 million in condoms to Gaza. Maybe I should like send a super chat or something telling him I don't think there's evidence of that, but still.
You don't
and there's this one.
Send him a tweet.
You're right. That probably would be better. I mean, questionable as to whether or not that he'll like see it and address it, but still, there was also this Forbes magazine article. Now, you people know me. I typically rely on Forbes. I typically find them trustworthy, but I don't know about this specific article, and I'm not going to read it here, but I was like browsing through it a bit, and at the end paragraph, were any of the controversial claims of USAID spending true? Yes, USAID did provide funding for several programs that have been slammed by Republicans. USAID gave $1.5 million in 2022 to advance diversity, equity, inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities and to increase employment opportunities for LGBTQ Serbians. Okay, so they're giving some credit to the right on that point. The payment was slammed by Leavitt and several Republican members of Congress, including Senator Ted Cruz, Republican Texas. The White House also criticized a $2 million payment by USAID for sex changes in Guatemala, which is not true. But listen to this next part. But USAID did make $2 million payment to strengthen trans-led organizations and gender-affirming healthcare in Guatemala. Though gender-affirming care encompasses more than surgeries, and it's unclear what medical care the grant was used for. So it's being like super fucking pedantic, this last bit right here. I mean, they just shot their own point in the foot. The fact that this $2 million would be going for like any transgender-related thing just seems wasteful either way that you put it. And so that
we can also gripe that it ain't exactly going to balance the federal budget, but still, no taxpayer money should be going to this shit. Absolutely, cut it out.
Yeah. So I probably am going to look into this more just for the sake of debate, and who knows, maybe even this article will make me think that Forbes isn't very reliable, but still. And I also have this article to read as well, but I don't think I have much more to say about USAID. I do have one live chat though.
Well, one idea in terms of foreign aid that I totally agree with cutting is I love Trump threatening to cut aid from Egypt and Jordan if they don't accept more Palestinian refugees. I think that's a move that should have been done years ago.
Oh, damn. Based. So Graham,
that's I mean, why are we giving Egypt and Jordan all this money if we can't control their interests? If they don't want to do what we tell them to do, then you're not entitled to our money.
Yep.
Because I mean, I really don't see any alternative to solving the conflict other than evacuating the Gaza Strip into Egypt and Jordan.
Yep. So one live chat comment here. Graham finally son Fife. Jeez, dude, you got to get yourself a new YouTube username because that's kind of complicated. No offense. He says, how come when Trump wants to end the Department of XYZ, the media treats it as Trump ending XYZ itself, e.g. education? For this reason, DOGE should be renamed to the Department of Saving Puppies.
I 100% agree. The media play those stupid games all the time. Like if you oppose the Inflation Reduction Act, you oppose reducing inflation just because you oppose the stupid act that called itself the Inflation Reduction Act. They play those dumb games all the time because they know that 99% of the public aren't going to take the time to read what's actually in a bill.
Yeah, it is honestly Trump derangement syndrome. It's like Monkey and Jack actually made a point not too long ago saying that if Trump was coming out against cancer, that some people in the media would probably say, "Oh no, cancer is good." Like you're putting black doctors out of business if you are trying to cure cancer.
Yeah, I honestly could see that. The Trump solution to cancer would just be to launch a bunch of tariffs against it.
Right. All right. So, as I said off air, next subject, I'm going to. This is a subject matter that Loudmouth brought to my attention and really wanted to talk about, and that is about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster containment hub, also known as the sarcophagus. So, tell us, what do you have to say about that, Loudmouth?
That a part of it was struck and ruptured, and there might be a leak coming out of it, and that's incredibly dangerous. The sarcophagus was like a multi-nation, multi-billion-dollar. I believe it's one of the most expensive structures ever built by humans to contain the disaster at Chernobyl as much as possible and keep the radiation leakage to a minimum.
Yep.
Because keep in mind, even though it's been almost 4 decades since the disaster, it's still radiation is still leaking out of it, and still will leak out of it for hundreds of years to come.
Yeah. And this strike just causes that to go more fast paced, right?
Yeah, and I'm wondering what Russia's goal was in this strike. I mean, causing a nuclear disaster at Chernobyl and a radiation leak. I definitely can't think of any non-evil reason to do that.
Because they want to irradiate the entirety of Ukraine.
They could, yeah, but inevitably some of that would blow onto their territory as well, which would be disastrous for them, or even more dangerously, it could blow onto a NATO country, which could trigger Article 5.
Oh, even though, well, okay, I guess Russia could play.
If Russia hits it and radiation leaks into those countries, essentially Russia engaged in a nuclear attack on a NATO country.
Wouldn't Russia play coy and be like, "Oh, we did not mean that radiation to leak into a NATO country. We just wanted it to leak into Ukraine and start killing Ukrainian military sites or whatever."
So, yeah, but ultimately, we'll see if NATO buys that, because NATO would have to respond to such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely stupid move. I mean. For some reason, when you brought up the subject, I thought you were going to say that there was something even more dangerous than this, the possibility of Russia. I mean, I guess there is a bit of a chain reaction there. Sarcophagus building gets struck, radiation leaks into a NATO country, NATO declares war on Russia, and then nuclear war happens across the globe. At first, I thought you were saying that even just this one leakage could cause I don't know, a disaster, a climate disaster across the world or something in the same way.
I mean,
like a mild
more radiation escaping from the Chernobyl site is certainly not good for the world around us. There's a reason why why that whole area is deemed uninhabitable for generations. The longer you're exposed to the significantly higher radiation levels in those regions, the higher your risk for cancer goes.
Yeah.
Basically, hanging out near that site for a few weeks is the equivalent is enough a higher cancer risk as smoking cigarettes for 20 years. It's dangerous.
I wonder if that could increase decrease overall life expectancy, but also increase risk of cancer for people all further across Europe, or even around the world or something. Or am I just being hyperbolic and even thinking that?
But it's kind of hard to measure. There's they showed this documentary on a population of dogs that live near the site, and the generations upon generations of abandoned dogs who basically were left there after all their masters fled in 1986. It says that the average lifespan of these dogs is only about 3 years. Very few of them ever live to be more than live to be old age, which for a dog is over 10 years old. Very few of them ever make it.
They're growing like third eyes and fifth legs as well, or something.
No, none of that. It's mostly just that they have a much higher cancer risk than most dogs do.
Understood.
So it's just not a very good environment. A lot of dogs have been rescued from that region. There's also been effort to neuter them.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of show that these dogs have just kind of been living there generation after generation. As as anyone who knows who's raised a dog knows, they grow up really fast and they can be reproductively viable when they're only a year old. So many generations have passed of these dogs since 1986.
Run away from the freaking area there, you stupid mutts. Come on. That's my thought.
Though you could also argue, despite the higher cancer risk, animals thrive there relative to a lot of places in the world just because there are no humans to disturb them.
Yeah, that does make sense, actually.
So just having too many humans around is worse for animal life than a radiation leak. What does that say about us?
Are you saying that matter-of-factly, or are you saying that that's how they view it, the dogs?
No, matter-of-factly, yeah. Because, there's actually quite a bit of, like, animal life that's returned to that region.
Oh.
They've shown, like, how the wild in just a few decades has retaken Chernobyl. And the radiation levels have decreased since 1986, both because of the sarcophagus being built and to contain it, and just generally the fact that it does eventually decay. Though it'll be like many, many decades from now until it's safe as in like the same cancer risk as most of the world, but the radiation levels are decreasing. Like they showed, like the elephant's foot that's inside the reactor of melted corium. If you were right after it melted down, if you were within a few feet of it, you wouldn't last a few days. You would experience an incredibly painful death. Today, you could probably sleep next to it, and you wouldn't be guaranteed a horrific death for maybe a day or two.
For some reason, I thought I've heard of the elephant's foot. For some reason, I thought that the elephant's foot was like as soon as you get even close to it, you'll like practically melt down or something.
No. It's just heavy radiation comes. The way radiation poisoning works is basically ionized particles come at the speed of light, and they penetrate into your body, and those particles tear away the bonds of your DNA that kind of hold you together. And that, needless to say, is a very painful way to die.
I guess I'm thinking too much of a science fantasy view of it, like the one guy melting away from RoboCop.
No, you won't melt. You won't literally melt away. You'll lose all your body hair. Your skin will lose its density. You'll get sick. You'll vomit out blood, and eventually you'll die. It is a very painful way to die, radiation sickness. Though usually right now, rather than getting radiation sickness like that, the main risk is a higher risk of cancer, because those radiations can trigger mutations in the cell, and obviously if cells mutate unsafely, what happens to them? There's a higher risk of them becoming cancerous.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
By the way, the funny little bit of retardation that I saving for the end of this live stream, it's going to be something kind of science related as well. So one thing that I think is like fair to bring up as far as this goes, so it's being like theorized that actually Zelensky ordered the strike on the sarcophagus to put the blame on Russia, so as to, play more victimhood mentality and say, oh, this is why that we need to join NATO, is because Russia is still attacking us or whatever. Like, what do you have to say about those theories?
I think they're fucking retarded. Russian apologists always lie like that. Yeah, I saw that asshole Scott Ritter spreading those kind of conspiracies. And I loved basically reminding him that he was in jail for between 2011 through 2013 for soliciting a teenager.
What about the accidental missile strike into Poland? I mean, it might be an accident, it might be on purpose, but there was like a Ukrainian missile that struck into Poland, wasn't there?
It was, but it wasn't like intentionally fired by Ukraine as part of some false flag operation. Basically, a Ukrainian missile intercepted a Russian missile, and a fragment of it hit Poland.
Okay.
So you could still argue that's Russia's fault because them having the conflict does make the risk of such things far more likely. And this is a conflict that, may I remind everyone, they started. This is not.
Yeah.
This is not Ukraine's invasion of Russia. It's Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Right. I mean, I do agree there. Like, people want to play up into the, the before. There's a term aftermath, and I'm going to say the before math of the invasion that, because Ukraine was like making negotiations to try and join NATO. So therefore that was scaring Russia. So therefore they felt justified in invading Ukraine and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, which is bullshit because Ukraine was never put on any kind of fast track to joining NATO.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with those criticisms. Even if it was true that they were planning to join NATO, I still don't think that really justifies Russia invading another sovereign country. I mean, yeah, you want a warm water harbor. I get it. But sorry, you guys are Russians, for fuck's sake. You are like highly resistant to the cold anyways. Why not just put up with whatever harbor that you have right next to St. Petersburg or whatever far western city that you have that is south of Finland.
I don't think they plan on stopping Ukraine. I think if they succeed in conquering Ukraine, Moldova would probably be next because it's not a NATO country. And eventually I could definitely see them trying for a NATO state just to see what they can get away with. Afraid that a nuclear response, retaliation wouldn't be worth applying to and engaging in nuclear blackmail.
Yeah, that's like that's like one of the things that was brought up by Sitch and Adam when they debated against Sargon of Akkad a few years ago about this issue. Sitch was all like, so what precedent does? Okay, so they were arguing a bit, and eventually Sitch finally said, was all like, this sets forth the precedent that like literally any nuclear country can just conquer whatever nation that they want to just because of the fact that they have nukes. And
which basically makes the nuclear non-proliferation treaty not worth the paper it's printed on.
Yeah.
The entire premise of that. Keep in mind, Ukraine actually did have nukes on its border at the end of the Cold War, and they gave them up in exchange for security guarantees.
Yeah,
from us. So we're just fulfilling our end of the bargain for them getting rid of their nukes, most of which were destroyed and some of which were sent to Russia. Though it is worth noting that those nukes never really were theirs. They were Soviet nukes. They were never really the Ukrainian government, even though they were on their territory, they never really had control of them.
Yeah.
So basically, they basically were figuring, we got these nukes. What should we offer in exchange for them? And the United States promised them a bunch of security guarantees for which we've been filling our end of the bargain by supplying them with all the weapons we've given them. But we obviously fell short of giving them full NATO membership.
Yeah. So some new live chats since we started talking about this. Phantom Lore DJH07 says, the new safe confinement building, I thought the sarcophagus was Soviet concrete building under it.
It is.
I thought it was like... Sorry,
what? This building is one of the strongest on the planet, hence why the damage does look pretty minor.
Gotcha.
I mean, this thing, if you hit it with a bunch of fully fueled Boeing 747s, it's designed to withstand them.
That is one tough cookie.
On them, it still wouldn't collapse.
So Graham Finally Son Fife also says, do any of the dogs have extra limbs? And as Loudmouth said earlier, no.
Not that I mean, it's possible some puppies have been born with extra limbs, but those puppies probably didn't last long.
Yeah, it's probably not common enough of a thing for us to say, oh, we have a totally new species afloat now, thanks to radiation fast tracking evolution or something like that. No.
Yeah, radiation does increase mutations, and mutations are the basis of evolution, but negative ones far outweigh positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't really speed up evolution all that much. That's mostly just in the movies.
Phantom Lord also says the really crazy part is that until 2007, the other 3 reactors were still in operation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You can't. Yeah, with a melted down nuclear reactor, you can't just turn the thing off. You know, it's the corium inside there. It's still once it melts down, it'll just start leaking for a long time until its half-life's decay, and that takes a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I highly recommend HBO's phenomenal Chernobyl miniseries. They do a great job of breaking down the step-by-step process that led to the disaster. You saw it shows how communism was the cause of that meltdown. It was the plant was built with substandard safety protocols, all just to save money when it was put together by corrupt government officials who were skimming on money, and the workers at that plant didn't even know that. So the workers were careless, and the reactor was built way below safety standards, even of the 1960s. So that whole thing was a disaster waiting to happen.
Didn't the Chernobyl series take place mainly in the aftermath of the meltdown, and it's centered around these 4 Soviet soldiers who were trying to work to contain the thing or whatever?
Yes, and I thought that was a brilliant thing it did. It opens with the disaster itself, and then the last episode with what shows like a courtroom drama, they kind of flash back and go through the step-by-step process that led to the disaster, which I thought was a brilliant filmmaking decision.
Interesting. A better courtroom drama than that of Joker Folia Do.
Oh yeah. Its tagline, what's the true cost of lies? was perfect because it really shows the lies of the Soviet state were the cause of that disaster. Nuclear power is actually incredibly safe if you build it correctly. If you build it to proper safety standards, particularly that was done in the 1960s, and again, it was built below safety standards. If you build with modern technology and you actually have people building it who know what they're doing and follow all safety guidelines, the chances of such a thing happening are next to zero.
Gotcha. So one other thing in the chat, and then we'll move on to the next subject, I guess. Graham Finally Son 5 says, speaking of communism causing problems, have you heard about the situation in South Africa? And I personally have not, but
you? South Africa.
What'd you say, Loudmouth?
It's a failed state. Pretty much the country's collapsing.
I gotcha. Yeah, I personally haven't looked into it, so I don't know, Graham. Sorry.
Pretty well, I mean, whole areas have given way to complete lawlessness.
But anyway, so in more recent news, I feel like I might have stepped back into the summer of love of 2020, as there is a riot that broke down in Philadelphia. But here's the catch, or not the catch, but whatever. Here's the twist. It's over the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, and this pisses me off.
Well, I say that these drunken jackasses who break property, whatever, they should be prosecuted. Just find whoever was breaking the law and throw the book at them.
Exactly. I mean, it'd be one thing if they lost the Super Bowl and they
that would not excuse it. You do not get to destroy people's property.
No, I agree. I just for the record, I totally 100% agree. They should not be throwing a hissy fit at public or private property. Either way, but what makes it even more astonishing is the fact that they won. They won, and yet they still felt like one to destroy property, and not just public property, but private property too. Like, if literally the only thing that they were breaking was a whole bunch of street lights, and really the locality was all like, hey, we'll vote to fix every little bit of public property damage. Let's let these spoiled brats have their fun or whatever. Then, okay, just don't expect any federal tax dollars. Like, fuck you. Don't expect any of that. But no, it's not just that. They're damaging a private business as well. There's like this linen truck that I guess that they broke into and started throwing all the linens out. And I don't know exactly what the business is. If they
I'm
clean
guessing
the
these yo-hos who did this shit, they probably just got shit-faced drunk and got caught in mob fear, which doesn't excuse it. They should still be prosecuted, but yeah, that's probably what happened.
And by the way, might I say, congratulations to the Eagles for winning the Super Bowl. My Chiefs, they kind of did suck as far as their playing goes. I did personally see the Super Bowl, and I saw the halftime show as well, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But and I don't care if you're like an Eagles fan in general, but the specific Eagles fans who live in Philadelphia, they're absolute, objectively pieces of shit, in my opinion.
Well, keep in mind, we are all just one Pabst Blue Ribbon away from being white trash in trouble.
Yeah.
You got that reference, right?
No, is that a South Park reference?
That's a South Park reference. Yeah, that was one of my favorite South Park memes is Pabst Blue Ribbons, white trash in trouble. When they arrest you, they make you look at the camera and say, now look at the camera and say, I'm white trash and I'm in trouble. I'm white trash and I'm in trouble.
And by the way, before any idiot wants to race bait this issue, no, this ain't a race issue. Like from the clips that I've seen, it's both black and white people who are destroying property over
I was
their
just
own
making
win.
a South Park reference there because I just thought that was funny.
No, I got you, but it was the perfect segue. It worked as the perfect segue for me to bring up that point. But anybody wants to claim racism like they did back during when I was criticizing the Floyd riots, piss off. I don't care what race is like doing the rioting. Rioting is wrong, especially if the target for your ire is is not the only one getting hurt. Like I've said back in 2020, that if they were only attacking the Minneapolis Police Department because, they're the specific ones for George Floyd's death, that's one thing. But that wasn't the only thing they were like destroying. They were destroying small businesses and even like their supposed black brethren in their own black neighborhoods or whatever. So it was even more ridiculous. And in this case, they're not just destroying public property, they're destroying private property too. And not over their own loss, but over their own victory. So this is multiple layers of just flat out wrong.
Fuck these jackasses, I guess, but it's, whatever.
And another thing that I have to say is, fuck every single person who was white knighting so hard for Kendrick Lamar to say that nobody's allowed to criticize him or whatever. That's one of the biggest things I've been arguing about with people throughout a good chunk of this week, and been seeing like primarily across Facebook is people calling people Karens for criticizing popular media. And it's just, my opinion wasn't even about the political side of it. I wasn't even able to make out the lyrics of the songs that he was singing and whatnot. So I did not get the political messaging. All that I thought was, damn it, I am bored. This is the most boring halftime show I've ever seen in my life. I already miss the Usher halftime show. Not that the Usher halftime show was that bad anyways, but if you compare that or the Weeknd halftime show to this one, no comparison. The Kendrick Lamar one is far more boring. But for the fact that you would even criticize the halftime show for being boring and not being able to hear any of the lyrics because the sound quality is shitty, no, it just, you're like people act like an asshole to you, and it's just rather baffling to me. And yeah, I don't know if it's like a worship complex that people have specifically about Kendrick Lamar, or if people are just so sucked up into pop media to where they're all like, shut up, Karen, and just let me consume my media slop. It's like these people are the living embodiment of the one meme from who was it? Geeks and Gamers that said this line. Just shut up and consume product and be ready for the next product.
Red Letter Media made that one.
Oh, Red Letter Media. Okay. So sorry for crediting the wrong person, but still, these people are literally the living embodiment, unironically, of that meme. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Oh, sorry, what were you about to say, Loudmouth?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. So, what is the time, by the way? I feel like we're about to get done here kind of early. Oh, yeah, 50 minutes? We're doing pretty good time. So, that's all for the serious subject.
Talking all about Trump's plan to move the Gazans.
Oh, you want to talk about that? I haven't heard about that. Go on.
You didn't hear about that? That's been making huge news around the world.
Well, okay, I've heard that he wants to buy Gaza, but I haven't heard anything outside of that.
He wants to basically push the Gazans into Egypt and Jordan, which is something that should have been done decades ago, to be honest. And then kind of like rebuild the area, but not give all the Gazans the right to return. I think it's the most humane solution for this conflict. I really don't see any other solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. That's a whole can of worms that will get kind of complicated for me to get into. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm not at all a Hamas sympathizer. Not even really. I don't even really fully believe the arguments about the Palestinians are the original people that live there or whatever. But even if that was true, we're like, what, 3-4 generations removed from when that the original Israel agreement happened, and Israel was founded back in 1948. So you're not only going to be displacing all the people who originally moved there and ended up displacing the original residents of that land, you're also going to be displacing grandchildren and great-grandchildren who have absolutely no responsibility for this. And you know what? About that point, people keep on bringing up the analogy of if somebody was to invade your house and then that invader has grandchildren and decides to continue living, and his entire family and future generations decide to live in that house as well as you and your own future generations, how would you feel? And my thought is, well, I certainly would not be killing the great-grandchildren of that invader in this wacky rhetorical situation brought up.
Yeah. How can Israel just be expected to live next to neighbors after what they did on October 7th? The fact that 1,200 people were brutally murdered. You had women mass raped. You had a bunch of young people at a music festival slaughtered and many taken prisoner. And you had children burned alive. It's the most sick. It was one of those sickening displays of inhumanity of the modern era. It was the largest loss of Jews since the Holocaust. And Israel, and according to these Free Palestine dipshits, Israel is just supposed to say kumbaya, let's live together after that. Fuck that. Yeah.
And on this point, Graham finally son Fife says, how does simply moving people from one location to another without killing equate to genocide? And simply put, it doesn't.
You don't even need to forcefully move them out of Gaza. All you really need to do now is get Egypt and Jordan to accept more Gazans who willfully want to leave, which many do. But that's another thing that shows the hypocrisy of the Free Palestine dipshits. None of them are. They claim that there's a genocide happening in Gaza, yet there is zero moral condemnation for Egypt for not accepting any Gazan refugees. Gaza has a big wall. Egypt has a big wall in the border with Gaza, and they don't let any Gazans into it. So.
And they criticize the idea of Trump building a wall on the southern border all the time. So where's the criticism for that too?
Yeah, none of them will. It shows just how dishonest these people are, and they really honestly just hate Jews, and that's it. All their criticisms of the Israeli, most of their criticisms of the Israeli government are bad faith as hell, because you'll always notice they don't apply it to all kinds of other states. They don't give a shit about what China's doing to the Uyghurs. They don't give a shit about Hamas mass murdering Palestinians, which they've done several times. None of them give a shit about any of that. They only want to condemn perceived human rights violation when they can use it to hate Jews.
And for the record, for all my more Israel skeptical usual subscribers and audience members, Vladimir Theo is primarily talking about leftist Palestine supporters, not necessarily libertarian ones or anything like that. Although libertarian ones are kind of more mixed.
I find that I find hatred of Jews is the one thing that unites kind of the worst elements on both the right and the left. Kind of on the right, you have like the Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes types, and on the left, you have all the Free Palestine dipshits.
Well, but then again, I don't think I have any big. Then again, I don't think I have any Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens fans subscribe to me. So those kind of
probably not. No,
those kind of dissident far right whack jobs. We can put those in the same bucket as the far leftists.
You know what I notice is that people who have like really wacky fringe opinions often are anti-Semites. Like I remember way back in almost a decade ago. God damn, how it's been that long. I was watching an Armored Skeptic video, and one of them they were reading him and Shuon Head were reading comments by flat earthers, and they were hilariously deranged and they were really, really funny to read. And it was surprising how many of these flat earthers were obsessed with Jews.
Wow. And it's funny that you mentioned that. Speaking of, this is what I wanted to talk about. A retarded flat earther to end our show off with.
Okay.
So
zoom that in. I can't read it.
Okay. Can I? Damn it. I don't know if I can.
I'll just read it out loud.
Wait, open in browser. Oh, this works. So I did not get a recording of the reel. I don't have it pulled up on Facebook or anything to show it. But basically, if I was to explain the reel, somebody who is like basically a round earther took their own super zoom camera to zoom into a ship that was, massive air quotes, going down. It wasn't really going down. It was just disappearing over the horizon as it was getting further and further away. And it wasn't even going down like if it was tilting forward or to the side, to the back or anything, and therefore was actually sinking. No, it looked like, from his point of view, like it was going in a straight vertical downward direction as it was going further. Disappearing over the horizon, in other words. But this guy right here still had the unmitigated gall to ask the one usual stupid question, asking, how does water stay on a curved object? Gravity? How does the Earth have an... Yep. How does the Earth have an atmosphere when space is a vacuum? And so the comments go, the answer to both questions is gravity. This next guy gives better answer. The vacuum of space doesn't suck air up like your vacuum in your house sucks up dirt. And yeah, gravity holds the atmosphere down, the same as anything else on Earth. It's pretty simple. And this next guy says, space isn't a vacuum on its own. Pressure differences cause what you think of as a vacuum.
Yeah, I thought we learned all this science back in like third grade.
Yeah, well, apparently not. Okay, yeah. Next comment. The atmosphere is a gradient because of gravity, and space isn't a vacuum cleaner. Then the original flat earther says, very nice theories, but you have no proof, just hearsay.
Fucking idiot. Nothing would prove it to this retard. Nothing. It's a waste of time.
And people wonder why that I call flat earthers retards. Like, in all honesty, over the past year or something like that, I have been absolutely frustrated with flat earthers. Like, all these Facebook reels popping up in my recommendations of people take clips from cartoons. Like, you know of how that in SpongeBob SquarePants, Sandy lives in like a dome atmosphere so that she could breathe actual air when she's not in her ocean suit outside of that dome? Well, they go perpetrating that as, oh, here is proof that we live on a flat plane with a freaking damn it, what do they call it?
How do you parody such nonsense? How?
You can't. It's just, I mean, even like a child could recognize, oh, they're just pretending. They're not actually trying to admit anything with this. Oh, the firmament. That was the term that I was looking for. This is proof of the firmament right here. The Sandy living in a dome. This is proof that the government, or at least these execs that made SpongeBob SquarePants, they are admitting, yeah, we live in a firmament, blah.
So the grand Jewish conspiracy to hide the firmament are giving off hints in the children's cartoon, is what they're saying.
Yeah, and in the old commercials as well. I can't remember this commercial, but there was some commercial where that a guy goes on a journey. He keeps on going, keeps on sailing and sailing and sailing until he like actually punctures through the edge of the firmament, and he's just floating in in space. Actually, it was like some form of space, but instead of Earth being a round ball, it really was a flat disk with a firmament. It's just that space exists in this case. It's just that Earth is a floating disk in space instead of a ball. And apparently that's admission that they're admitting we live on a flat plane with a firmament. And stupid.
Anytime I'll sometimes read scientific literature that I'll have trouble understanding, and I'll feel really dumb because I don't fully get all the intricacy and details. Then I'll read people like that, and I'll feel like I am a fucking genius.
Yeah. And I am pretty much in the same boat. Like, full disclosure, people, honestly, my parents did not teach me like enough science as they probably should have. But even I'm not that smart of a man, honestly. I mean, another news, water's wet, but still. But even I, by just pure osmosis, can grasp a basic, simple concept, that being like gravity, and that vacuum, the vacuum of space is not a literal vacuum cleaner that is like, sucking that would suck the very outer stratosphere of our atmosphere and just keeps on peeling away at the layers of Earth's atmosphere down to the ground.
And thought that's like how an atmosphere really worked.
Sorry, what?
Did they see the end of Spaceballs and thought that's how atmosphere really worked?
I think so. I think that's what this guy is running along with.
I mean, they do know that movie was an absurd comedy and it was meant to be ridiculous.
But apparently they were rather predictive of Flat Earthers' logic. They predicted the Flat Earth Society. Mel Brooks in Spaceballs predicted the Flat Earth Society, y'all.
Even though even in Spaceballs, planets are still spheres.
Oh yeah. You're right. So did not predict everything about Flat Earth Society, but basically. Well, yeah. Gravity and all that stuff, just basic things that, even though that I'm not able to like put it in exact precise words to explain it to like a little 5-year-old or something like that, I can still at least get a basic understanding of how it works and whatnot.
Yeah,
I don't understand everything about it, but still.
I love on the same day that the Walking with Dinosaurs remake was announced, Candace Owens felt the need to tweet that the older I get, the more dinosaurs being destroyed by an asteroid seems silly to me.
Fuck!
Like I said, she's like gone cuckoo. But can't believe Ben Shapiro hired her for a time, but eventually just had to cut ties.
Yeah.
Yep. He almost hired Lauren Chen, but dodged a bullet there, huh? You know what happened there?
Not really. I mean, I can guess as to how that it's now a good idea, but what was the initial drama of that made him think, yeah, we're not hiring Lauren Chen?
Well, originally it was just some negotiation things, but in retrospect, how extreme she got in them finding out she was funded by the Russians, in retrospect, dodged a bullet there, huh?
Oh, sorry, you said Lauren Chen. For some reason, I thought Lauren Southern. Damn it, there are too many Laurens in politics.
Yeah, Lauren Chen. Ben Shapiro briefly tried to hire her, but he couldn't, and I'm like, dodged a bullet there.
Yep. Otherwise, he would be in more congressional hearings about Russia funding and shit like that.
Right, exactly.
All right, so we're at an hour and 4 minutes, so I think this might be pretty much where that we'll end it at. not too many viewers. But hey, thank you, Phantom Lord and Grand Finally Son, for watching, and thank you all in the future who may watch this. And Loudmouth, anything? Any final words?
Fuck Putin. How about that?
Oh yeah, fuck Putin. That's the running theme mostly of this of today's live stream.
And most live streams.
Yeah. Except the last one was I don't know, never mind. It was a fuck China stream was the last one.
Oh yeah, fuck them too.
Yep.
Fuck the Chinese communists, always.
Yeah. Oh yeah, specifically the Chinese communists. I don't have a problem with the Chinese people, and I don't have a problem with the ancient China country as a whole necessarily. I just have a problem with the current government and the current country that it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you all for watching, and y'all have a good rest of your Saturday and weekend overall, and stay safe out there. Don't get caught in any Philadelphia riots, and God bless.
Peace.